So 7 years ago, I had this crazy idea that I wanted to go to a TED Talk. And I thought, where did that come from? Because I'm not a speaker. But I thought, well, okay, I'm listening to that voice. And I thought, I just wanted to go. I didn't want to be on the stage, but I wanted to go and I wanted to hear the speakers, just like you're here today. I wanted to know what ideas would they share and just feel the energy in the room. And I wondered, maybe someday if I did do a TEDx talk, what great idea would I share? So as I'm a friend of mine, we flew to Toronto, Canada, actually, to go to the TEDx. And I'm in the room just like this, and I'm started to imagine myself on that stage. And as I'm listening to each speaker, I'm thinking, what great idea would I talk about? And so as I thought about that, and all the way home on the airplane, I'm reading over the notes, and I just keep thinking about what great idea would I share? And I get home, and I'm at my desk, and I bought a book called How to Do a TED Talk. And so I had the book, and I'm reading, and I'm thinking to myself, well, maybe someday, what would I talk about? And then I heard another voice. And that voice said, are you crazy? You're not a good speaker. You're not even a speaker. Why would you want to do a TED Talk? Maybe not. So I literally took the book, I put it on my bookshelf, and life went on. And so I think about that and think about both voices. So the one voice that told me to go, and then the other voice that told me, you're not good enough. See, we all have both of these voices. You're born with what I call the voice of truth that was telling me, go to the TED Talk. It was pointing me in that direction. And the other was telling me, you're not good enough. Don't you have those both voices every day going inside of your head? And so you are born with what I call that voice of truth. The other is what I call the voice of fear. And it shows up as worry and anxiety and fear. Just like right before I came up on the stage, I'm still asking myself, what am I doing here? And I asked, can I change my mind? Can I leave? And they said, no, you're up next. So you have to deal with both of these voices every single day. But like I said, the voice of truth you're born with. But that voice of fear is programmed. And becoming aware of that is key. So you see, between the ages of 0 and 7, you are programmed. As a child, your brain waves are in what they call a state of theta. And it's kind of like when you're hypnotized or you're meditating. Every single thing that you see and you hear in the pictures and the movies, it all gets deeply planted into your subconscious. And as you grow up, those are the things that come out, and those are the things that cause you to react to certain circumstances. So think back to when you were a kid. And I don't know what your childhood was like, but mine was, I remember under the dining room table, and I had created a castle for myself. And I listened to Disney classic fairy tales over and over and over. This is what I did. I was about 4. You can imagine the little blonde pigtails. I'm under there, and I'm listening. We had record players at the time, if you guys remember those. But so I was listening to those records, and so the first early programming I knew was I flew with Peter Pan. My friends were princesses, and the early words that I knew were, anything is possible if you just believe. And so that was my early programming. Those are the voices that have helped me on my journey today. But you also have to deal with the outside voices, because my programming is different than your programming. And so I remember the first time hearing an outside voice. My parents had taken me to Walt Disney, like we did every year, and we were staying at the Dolphin Inn. So we were staying actually in St. Pete, Florida. And I remember looking off in the distance, and I saw a pink castle. And many of you might know this, but there's a Pink Castle Hotel in St. Pete. And I begged my parents because I had never seen a real castle. And of course, growing up, believing that I was a princess, I had to go see what was inside that castle. And so I begged my parents, please, please bring me to the castle. And so as my parents hesitated, they brought me. And I remember walking up to that pink castle. And it was that voice again, that truth telling me, that's where you belong. Go to the castle, see what's inside. And so I'm looking at the chandeliers, and I'm looking at the marble, and I'm only about 12 at the time. So I'm looking at all of these magnificent things, and I'm walking through, and I'm in a dream. I feel like I've arrived. I am a princess. And so right at that moment, I heard my dad say, "Hurry, Carla, we don't belong here." And I was like, wait, did someone just interrupt my dream? I'm dreaming here, I'm a princess in this castle. What do you mean we don't belong here? So I just paused for a second, but thankfully, my early childhood program, Cinderella, had told me anything is possible if you just believe. And so I chose to believe that. And so my life changed in that moment. I made that choice to listen to that voice of truth instead of the voice that my parents were projecting from their early childhood program. See, my parents grew up in a totally different era. They grew up believing that only a certain few people could have luxurious things, could stay in places like that. Work came before play. They just didn't have time to dream. So you see, as adults, we're not responsible for our program. You're not responsible for someone else's program. But we are 100% responsible to choose. So in every single moment, you are going to hear both voices, and you have to make that choice. So how do you know the difference between what's true and what's fear? So truth will always bring you peace. It's always guiding you in the right direction. Where fear, it's annoying and it interrupts. So you can be in the middle of something, you're heading toward your dream, and then all of a sudden you hear that annoying voice that says you're not good enough, you can't do this, it's impossible, forget about it, just put that on the shelf. And so that is the voice of fear. But the main clue is it interrupts, and the other brings you peace. And so when I think about 7 years ago, I had just simply listened to the wrong voice. See, dreams don't die. When they are your truth, they're going to keep coming back, and you're going to have every opportunity to hear both voices again, and it's entirely up to you to choose. So my question to you is, what will you choose? Thank you.